Welcome everybody to July Tech Talk, where we've got Richard Snell from Karbon. Looking forward to today's talk. We're going to get an overview of a great product for workflow management, communications, planning, and hopefully, give us another tool to look at for managing our clients and workflow and setting up some efficiencies which we need at the moment. I'm sure, like me, some of you are feeling a bit swamped with workload in the last month with end of year. So Richard, over to you.
Terrific. Thank you for inviting us today. Very excited to be here, and I'm certainly looking forward to sharing an overview of Karbon today. And certainly there is, I'm sure you're all familiar with the Q&A box on your toolbar, so please feel free as you think of questions to type them into the Q&A box, and we'll certainly have time for questions at the end of the presentation. I'll just share my screen, and I'll just a few little slides just to, I guess, give some overview or some introduction to Karbon. I'm sure some of you on today's call may have seen Karbon, or perhaps know friends or colleagues that use Karbon. For those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting before, as Joe said, my name's Richard Snell. I'm the Sales Director for Asia Pacific for Karbon. I've been around the accounting bookkeeping industry for a long time, so about 20 years. So certainly had lots of conversations with lots of different people, from sole practitioners right up to larger organisations as well. So had lots of good times over the last 20 years dealing with colleagues like yourself in our industry. Today I want to take you through Karbon, and Karbon is very much a workflow collaboration platform designed for the accounting and bookkeeping firms. We started out probably 6 or 7 years ago. We've now got several thousand firms globally. We operate across Australia, New Zealand, North America, Canada, UK, South Africa, Ireland, and probably a spattering of other organisations as well. And as I said, we are very much an organisation that is designed or focused on really solving that workflow collaboration issue for accounting technicians like yourself, and also people in practice. So we scale very nicely from a sole practitioner right up to some quite large firms as well. In terms of the problem that we're trying to solve for you is, as I said, it's workflow and collaboration. And the reason we came to that was that when we set out to build Karbon initially, we really focused on the workflow side of things. And what we quickly realised was that one of the key elements of effective workflow is effective communication. And we realised that some of the challenges around that was the amount of email traffic and the amount of email communication that gets people bogged down in trying to service and deal with their clients. So Karbon helps you break free from your inbox. So we've got deep integration to your email inbox, whether that be Office 365, Gmail, or Microsoft Exchange. So we can really give you visibility and control over all of your client communications in one spot as well. In addition to that, we can give you great visibility over where everything is up to. Whether you're a sole practitioner, whether you've got team members, you can get visibility over not only who's doing what, but where things are up to. Are things tracking well? Exactly where are we up to in that process or that work item? So whether you're doing daily bookkeeping commitments for clients, whether you're doing quarterly BASs, you can certainly build out those multiple views of work. So you've got clear visibility over where everything is up to. One of the reasons our clients love us, and one of the things that differentiates Karbon from other platforms out there, is our standard operating procedures that we have, or workflow templates as we call them internally. And when you come on board to Karbon, you get access to our standard workflow templates, but also our extended library of workflow templates as well. And I'll touch on those today as well. For those of you who like to track time and do timesheets, we've also got the ability within Karbon to do timesheet entries as well. So you can certainly track budget versus actual quite efficiently and quite effectively within Karbon as well. So I'm now just going to jump into a live presentation of Karbon, take you through some of those key areas, and certainly, as I said, if you've got any questions or queries, please don't hesitate to ask. All right, so hopefully you can see my work dashboard. And the reason I like to start here in terms of giving you an overview of Karbon is that this is the end result of everything else that happens in Karbon. And by that, I mean that when you come and look at this dashboard, you want to feel comfortable and confident that what you're looking at is accurate, real time and up to date. So at the moment, you can see that we're looking at the work dashboard, and at the moment we've got it set that we're seeing all of the work across the whole firm. So at the moment I can see there's 835 current work items within the firm. And at the moment I've got my columns sorted by due date. So at any point in time I can see we've got, being a demo account, I've got lots of overdue jobs, but certainly I can see how many jobs I've got due today, this week, this month. And I can see exactly what our commitment in terms of workflow is coming down the pipeline because I've got my columns sorted by month. However, this dashboard is highly customizable and you can create many, many different views of work depending on what your role is within the organisation, what's urgent, what's important to you today, or also what are those things you need to just keep track of on an ongoing basis. So I've got a number of filters that I can apply to this. So over here, I've got the ability to decide which columns I want to have displayed. So at the moment, we've got them displayed by due date. I can quite quickly toggle that same information to say, show me it by team member, by status, by start date, etc. So if I toggle it to team member and click out of that box, I've now got that same information now presented by team member. So I can see exactly how much work each team member's got on. In addition to that, though, I can also reduce the amount of information on each of these job cards because these job cards do contain quite a bit of information. They've got the information in terms of the name of the job and the client that we're doing the work for. It's got some information around the due dates, when when there was last some activity on this job, and also if we're using budgets in Karbon, I can see exactly what the budget commitment is for that job as well. But as I said, I can also come in here and reduce that down. I can reduce the amount of information on those job cards if I want to create a more simplified, cleaner view. So you can see those cards have now got smaller. So it's really about personalizing the view of information that suits you. Also in Karbon, we recognise that certain reports or certain views of work better as a list view. So there's certainly reports that I prefer to run in Karbon that are more of a spreadsheet or more of a list view. So I can see all of the columns presented in that list view. And then I can also sort by these columns as well. So some reports certainly work better as a list view, and I'll show you those as well. The other key thing about Karbon is that we then have a huge range of filters that we can apply to slice and dice this dashboard. So we've started out at 30,000 feet, but now we want to drill down to what's urgent, what's important. So I can certainly filter that information so that I can see exactly, perhaps what just a couple of my team members have got on. So it might be that I want to see what Sarah, Andy, and Richard have on at the moment. So I can just filter by the particular team members that I'm interested in. And then what I might say is, actually, I want to know what jobs they've got to start this week. So I can apply a date filter across that data as well. It might be that I want to know what's happening this week, next week, this month, or within a specific date range. I can pick calendar dates as well. Or similarly, one of our more popular ones is that people want to see within X amount of days. So it might be, what have we got on for the next 90 days? And the beauty of doing this is I can now set some end posts around what I want to view here. And I can see now that, Richard's got 52 jobs compared to Sarah's 9. Andy's also got 79 jobs. There's a progress bar here, so I can see which jobs have commenced and which ones haven't. So again, I might decide that I just want to reallocate that one across to Sarah because she's got capacity. And it's really as simple as clicking and dragging. Any view of work that I create in Karbon, I can save as a favorite. So again, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. So it might be, my team starting 90 days. And again, the beauty of saving this as a favorite is that I can just refresh the data each time I want to see what's happening to the next rolling 90 days, for example. So again, depending on my role within the firm, I will end up with my own saved favorites. So again, principals or owners of the firm perhaps might have more views of work compared to team members. If I'm just one of your team members and I need to focus on what I need to do, I might just have a view of work of what I need to get out the door. So it might be that what has Richard got on? what is the status of that work? So I've just selected some different statuses here and then applied those. And then I've also applied the start date of this week. And the thing I love about this view of work is that as a team member, I can also effectively manage my work as well. So often it's important for accounting technicians to know what's happening on a day-to-day basis. So here I can filter by start date. I can do live updates to the start date and say, hey, I need to actually start that today. I can also do a live update to the status and say, well, that one's actually in progress. So really, it's a great way to effectively manage my day-to-day and my weekly workflow as well. However, we also know that there's a lot of due dates that we need to be able to manage and make sure that we're delivering our work on time for our clients as well. So it's really easy in Karbon to filter by work types. So let's say, for example, that we do have a lodgement date coming up for our VASs or our IASs. I can come in here and I can actually filter my work by work type. You can define what these work types are called as well, so that's customizable. Let's say we want to see what's happening with our VASs. I now want to actually apply a due date this time, so I'm going to select a due date, including any overdue work. And this time I'm going to select the actual date off the calendar. So we know that if I come in here to calendar, it's due on the 28th. I can actually apply that date. And this time I want to view the work by status. I want to see where are my potential bottlenecks? Have I got anything that is a bottleneck? So what it's telling me now is that I have got 14 VASs or IASs that are due out by the 28th of August. But my problem is I've still got 10 sitting in ready to start. I can see the progress chart here as to how far through we're progressing through that work. And then I can also decide that, you know what, I think this report works better as a list view. So I can toggle that same information. I can sort by client. I could perhaps sort by status. I could sort by due date, etc. So really easy for you to analyze and understand exactly where everything's up to. If you have the admin rights, any of these views of work that you create, you can export straight out to Excel as well. So the key message that I want to stress here is that this dashboard is about customizing your views of work in a way that is relevant and important to yourself. So as I said, you'll just save them as a favorite, not have to reinvent them, so that you can just recreate some of those as well. A couple of other favorite views that I like to look at is if you start to do time in Karbon. One of the benefits of tracking time in Karbon is that ability to see budget versus actual. And we know one of the biggest challenges of charging jobs for time is that often if you're going to have a write-off or a loss on a job, you often find out about that loss or write-off when it's too late, typically at the billing stage. So here what I've done is I've created a view of work where I've said, show me all of the jobs where we've used over 50% of the budget. And I want to compare that to where we've completed less than 50% of the tasks. And what that is now telling me is that if I look at the progress bar here, is these are the jobs that are potentially heading off the rails, or we're potentially heading for a loss or a write-off. And Karbon is color-coded. So one of the great things here is that where I see blue, as I showed you earlier, it means things are tracking well and that they're on time. Where I see things in orange at the moment, that means something's potentially going off the rails. And this one on the right here, you can see is actually in red. So it's actually already over budget. So this is a great view of work to have, so I can see which of those jobs are potentially heading off the rails. And we know probably 9 times out of 10, and I'm sure you'll probably agree, is that when jobs tend to be heading for a write-off or heading for a loss, typically it's because there's been some sort of job scope creep, or the client has perhaps done something we didn't expect. The beauty of being able to see it before you get to that billing stage is there at least is an opportunity to perhaps re-engage with the client and perhaps reset their expectations around what the fees should be. So that's a good overview of the dashboard and a good overview of how you can customize your views of work. I could probably spend a whole hour here building out different views of work, but as I said, you typically find that you'll end up with your favorite sort of half a dozen to 10 views of work, and refresh and run those on a regular basis, depending on your role within the organization. What sits underneath each of those work items in Karbon, though, is what we call our work templates. And this is where Karbon starts to help you and starts to automate some of the processes for you to help drive efficiency within your firm. So, for example, if I look at these templates here, these are some standard templates. When you sign up to Karbon, it gets shipped with typically about 20 to 25 of the most popular templates. But we also have on our website our template library. So at any point in time, you can jump into the template library, you can view them. We've got different regions there, so it might be that I need to do it by Australia. And then we can also come in here and see, what other templates do we have here? And if I want to add any of these in, I can just add that into Karbon. So it's telling me that one's already in my Karbon account, but you can certainly import those additional templates into your Karbon account as well. So these templates, though, they are much more than just a static to-do list. We've actually built some automation into them. So let's jump into one and have a look at them in a bit more detail. So if I jump into monthly accounting, these are the standard steps or processes that we want to follow to complete a set of work for you and your team. So when we think about workflow at Karbon, we think about it in terms of role responsibility. So a long time ago when I worked in practice, the way you knew where a job was up to was based on who had the biggest pile of manila folders on their desk. So you basically track the piles of manila folders. So if you think how work can move through a firm, whether that be a sole practitioner or whether it be you've got a couple of team members, what we want to see is who's responsible for doing what. So here we've got got a monthly set of accounts that we want to do. So we've got some bookkeeping responsibilities. We've also got some accounting responsibilities as well, or responsibilities to be done by an accountant. Again, you can tailor and customize these workflows to reflect your own business. But importantly, Karbon has some effective efficiencies to help move the work and also track the work for you. So the way that we do that is by what we call workflow automators. And these automators are designed to do a couple of things for you. They can automatically help you keep the status of the work up to date. So it'll automatically keep that dashboard up to date. It can also automatically update the due date, and it can also importantly automatically update the assignee. So let's say that I'm an accounting technician and I've completed my series of tasks, but it now needs to be reviewed by my manager or principal. We can automatically update the status of the work to now be at review stage and automatically reassign the work from me to Joe, for example. So those workflow automators will assist in moving the work through the firm, and those team members get notified when work is assigned to them. And it can also ensure that when I look at that dashboard, that it's accurate, real time, and up to date. The other key piece that we build in from an automation perspective in these templates is the ability to communicate and collaborate with your clients. So we know one of the biggest time wasters inside any firm that's servicing people on a professional basis is the amount of time that you spend chasing your clients for information. So the amount of time that it's involved in that follow-up, that chase to get all the information that you need to complete their work. So Karbon has a solution for that, and we call it client tasks. And client tasks is the ability for you to build your checklist of information that you want your clients to provide for you. So in this example here, we're requesting some month-end bank and credit card statements and also their loan statements. But in Karbon, you can build that out. And then what you can do is you can leverage a standard email template to request that information. And then importantly, you can ask Karbon to automatically send that email and checklist to your clients either X amount of days prior to a scheduled start date or X amount of days post a scheduled start date. And also Karbon will do automatic reminders and follow up for you as well, because we know clients don't always respond to the first email we send them. So Karbon will do that follow up for you as well. So if you think about that in practice, for example, let's say you're doing 30, 50 BASs a quarter, you can have Karbon automatically send out a reminder email 2 to 3 weeks before that scheduled work is due to be done. Remind the clients of the information you need to do that work, and then Karbon will also send out any reminders that's required if they don't respond to that first email as well. So we know from surveying our clients that this feature alone is a massive time saver. We recently did a survey with our customer base, and the feedback was that the client tasks and that automation of chasing and following up clients saves about 4 hours per person per week. So certainly one of our favourite, most loved features in the product. In addition to that, though, at a template level, we can also put a minimum budget estimate. So here I've got a minimum budget estimate of 8 hours for this particular type of work. And the benefit of having this minimum budget estimate is that each time a piece of work is created from this template, it'll put that budget estimate in there. That means when I look at that work dashboard, I've got visibility over the amount of work that I've got scheduled over time. Importantly, I can adjust and tailor this budget when I create the work item at an individual client level as well. So it is quite customizable as well. And I'll come back and we'll do a live work item as well. In addition to both the work dashboard and the templates, we also have the other big bucket of Karbon is what we call Triage. And Triage is that supercharged inbox or that notification center in Karbon. So when you sign up to Karbon, you actually sign up with your email address and your password, and we pull in everything that's sitting inside your inbox. So you've got visibility over all of your emails. Importantly, though, you also get visibility over all of your workflow notifications. So again, I can see here any work that has been assigned to me. I can see here any of those automated client tasks that have been actioned by my clients. And I've also got this ability to collaborate and communicate across the platform with other team members as well. So I'll show you how each of those work as well. What we call those collaboration chats is what we call mentions. And I know personally, when I log on to our internal Karbon instance each morning, the first thing that I check is what have I been mentioned on by my colleagues, because that's typically the most urgent or important thing that I need to address. But as I said, Karbon is Triage, I should say, is that supercharged inbox. It's that visibility and control over all of my client communications and also all of my internal communications. But we've also built a series of automation in here as well. So if I click on this email from Abigail Silvers, the first thing Karbon's going to do is it's going to recognize any emails that come in from our existing clients. So it's recognized this is an email from a client of ours, because I can see the name Abigail Silvers here, and it's going to automatically file and save that email for me. So automatically, all of the communication from my clients is saved and stored in a central location. So I've got visibility and control over all that communication, regardless of which team member they've emailed. So you can see here we've got some emails that Abigail sent to Andy, as well as some emails that she sent to Richard. And again, the beauty of this is that we're taking away that subjective decision for your team about what's an important email and what's not an important email. All those pieces of communication and correspondence are going to be captured for you in one easy location to find. However, we can go a step further. Let's say, for example, this email from Abigail Silvers relates to an existing piece of work that we're doing for this client. You can see here I've got this button, Add to Work. I can now add this to an existing piece of work that we're doing for Abigail Silvers. And now if I click on that work item, it's now showing me just a subset of the communication specifically related to this job that we're doing for Abigail. The other great thing, though, is this is a great spot for me to capture any file notes. So let's say we've had a phone conversation or we've had a meeting with the client. Pop my notes in here, so all my file notes, record the conversation. But importantly, I can mention the team that's helping me look after this client, or I could even just mention an individual. And this way, we're all on the same page in terms of what's been discussed and what's been communicated with the client, because each of these team members is going to get notified in Triage that I've mentioned them on this file note. So they'll all be brought back in here so they can see exactly what we've discussed and agreed with the client. I can pin any important information to the top of the timeline so that everyone sees it when they first come into this job. But then I've also got clear visibility over all the communication associated with this work item as well. The other thing that we can do in Triage is that ability to collaborate and communicate with our team. So again, one of the things that clogs people's inboxes is internal emails, I should say. That's a bit of a tongue twister. And they're those emails that constantly get forwarded or CC'd around an organisation. So we can dramatically reduce that amount of noise and traffic happening inside your inbox by leveraging what we call the ability to comment or live chat across the platform. So let's say I needed some input from one of my colleagues on this particular query or email from Abigail Silvers, so I could ask Lachlan for help. So, what do you think? And again, the beauty of this is that Lockie and I can collaborate in real time about this particular client query back and forth. He could even just give me a thumbs up emoji to say that he's read that piece of communication. Importantly, all that communication is going to be captured on the timeline as well. So again, rather than sort of doing it in Teams or Slack or anything like that, which is really hard to go back and find those chat pieces, when I come in here, I can easily find it and see it down the track as well. The other great thing is that none of this internal chat can accidentally be forwarded to the client. So I don't know if you've ever had that heart attack where someone's accidentally forwarded a whole internal email thread to a client. Again, by leveraging that internal @mention functionality, that can't happen either. The other great thing too, though, is particularly if you're a leader or a principal of a firm, often a lot of the email traffic in your inbox needs to be assigned or delegated out to a team member. So Karbon makes that really easy for you to do. So let's say after this whole back and forth, I decided I really want Lachlan to follow this up for me. I can easily assign it to Lachlan as a to-do. I can put a due date on it. I can put a little note here. And the beauty of doing this in Karbon is that, again, we've got the full history that's been assigned to Lachlan. But the other great thing is that he's got all that information at his fingertips. All he needs to do is to reply or action that email directly out of Karbon as well. So really easy way for you to make sure that some of those little things that appear in your inbox that we often refer to as those sort of little ad hoc pieces of work that aren't associated to big jobs, but those little ad hoc pieces that sometimes fall through the cracks, you can easily track, manage those and assign those either to yourself or to other team members so they don't fall through the cracks. The last thing I want to show you off the back of Triage is how can we actually create a brand new piece of work. So let's say this email from Bronwyn Anderson is the start of a whole new engagement. Wherever I see 3 dots in Karbon, there's a little menu behind there. I can now come in here and I can actually create a brand new work item. So I can go to our library of best practice templates. I can say we're going to do some monthly accounting for Bronwyn. I'll make that, call it monthly. I can define the work type, so I can slice and dice by that work type on the dashboard. I can set the turnaround time for this job. So let's say we want to get it done by the end of August. Now, because I've selected the work template that's got some of that automated client communication in there, it's saying, hey, who do you want to send those pieces of communication to? We want to send them to Bronwyn. So we can just call up Bronwyn. And it's also saying who's going to complete the tasks associated with this job. If I don't know who's going to do it, we can certainly assign that later. Or I can also create a bucket of what we call unassigned work that I want to review and then decide who I want to allocate it to as well. Let's assume we know who we want to complete those tasks. I can easily assign it to those team members, and now they will get notified in Triage that work has come in and that it's been assigned to them. I can now jump into that job. And there's a couple of things I want to highlight here. We've got the audit trail as to how the job was created. We've got the original email. I've got all the information about the job across the top here. So I've got the due dates and exactly how far through the job we are. We've leveraged the standard operating procedures for the business, or for the firm. So this is the standard way we should complete a set of monthly accounts or payroll or whatever it might be. But importantly, I can tailor it and customize it at an individual client level. So if I need to add a task or remove a specific step, I can certainly do that at this point in time as well. I can also check the budget estimate at this point in time and make sure it reflects what we've quoted the client. So again, if I need to come in here and adjust it, I can adjust it up or down, for example. So we can just tailor and tweak that particular budget. Importantly too, I can now set up a recurring job schedule. So I know as accounting technicians, a lot of what you need to track and manage is something that reoccurs on a regular basis, whether you're doing fortnightly payroll, whether you're doing those monthly IASs or quarterly BASs, etc. You can easily set up a really simple repeat scheduler in Karbon. So again, daily, weekly tasks, fortnightly tasks, monthly, quarterly, etc. How often you want it to repeat. You don't have to set an end date in Karbon, and I'll show you why in just a moment. We can set the turnaround time for that work item. Make sure that none of those due dates land on the weekend. We can rename the job here as well if we're not happy with the naming convention. But this is why we don't have to set an end date in Karbon. We can just ask Karbon to create the work for us on a regular basis. And the great thing about that is it doesn't overwhelm you with repeat scheduled work for 2024 that really isn't of any concern at the moment. So now that I've created that recurring job schedule, I don't have to worry about setting up the payroll job for them each fortnight. Karbon's going to automatically keep creating that work item for me in advance. But now that I've created that work item, I also want to show you how those automated client tasks work. So how does that automated client communication work? And also how does the workflow automators help me keep things up to date and keep things moving within the firm? So we've got this client task here. The template that we've selected actually says, hey, we're going to send out that request for information to clients one day after the job is created. So what I'm going to do now, though, is I'm actually going to adjust that send setting to show you how it works. We're going to send that task out now. We can choose who it gets sent to again, or who it gets sent from as well. So if you wanted all the emails to come from the principal of the firm, for example, you could certainly do that. I can now tailor and customize the email at an individual client level at this point as well. So I put a personal message in here. And then importantly too, we can now decide, do we want to send automatic reminders to this client? And if so, how much do we want to harass them? So we can set it to every 2 days. Karbon won't go over more than 5 reminders at any particular point in time, because we certainly don't want to get accused of spamming anyone. But now I've set that up. It's also saying, because you've got a recurring schedule on this work item, do you want the changes to apply just to this job or to all future jobs? And the great thing about that is that if you think about it, when you adjust or tweak a series of tasks for a particular client, in Karbon, you can actually have that that customization flow through to future jobs as well. So I know, speaking to a lot of accounting technicians over time, that a lot of what you do is personalized and tailored at an individual client level as well. So we're now going to hit send, and a couple of things is going to happen now. We can see that email is being sent out to Bronwyn now. We'll also see the system will update the status as well. And if I jump on the timeline, we can see that that email's just gone out and the status is now updated to waiting for information. So importantly, I can see exactly what the client received. So Karbon captures those incoming and also outgoing emails. So I can now see exactly what we sent to the client. So we've sent the client a highly personalized email. It's got my auto signature, but importantly, we've given them a secure encrypted link to provide that information to us. Much more secure than just standard email. So they can log in with a secure PIN number, and we manage that whole process for you. Importantly, they can both upload and download files. They can check off that they've done that task that we've requested. Importantly, though, they can also live chat back to us, so they can actually ask us live questions. So let's say they're not sure that they've given you everything that you want, or they've got a query about it. They can certainly, ask a question here. And the other great thing too is, let's say your checklist, you've requested 10 things from the client, but they've only completed 5. The reminders will still go out for those other 5 steps that they haven't completed as well. But as I said, the way that this works in practice is that you might have 30, 40 BASs that you're doing each quarter. You've got these automated requests for information going out. You don't have to keep manually checking, have those client tasks being completed. Karbon's going to notify you when that happens. So if I jump back into Triage now, I can see that I've got a notification that that automated client task has been actioned by my client, Bronwyn Anderson. If I click into it, I can see that there's a question there from Bronwyn. So I can actually come in here now, and I can actually say back to Bronwyn, and it's warning me that I'm about to chat back to a client. Now I can just say, thank you. That's everything we need. You'll see I'm a really bad typer when I'm talking, so pick up that spelling errors. Now, the beauty of this is that any of this chat's going to be automatically captured on that work item, but I could also notify my colleague that everything's in and we can get this job underway. So I could also now post internally to Sarah, who's also assigned on this work item with me. We are good to go. All that information has come in, and Sarah's going to get notified in Triage that this has happened and that we've got everything we need at our fingertips. As I said, the beauty of this is that all that internal chat's automatically captured at a work item level. So again, a week, a month, a year down the track, you need to come back and see what's happened on this particular job. All of that correspondence and chat is going to be automatically captured on that work item. A couple of things I want to quickly touch on from a timesheet perspective at this point in time is that there's a couple of different ways that I can do a timesheet entry on this work item. So I can come back to this time and budget tab, and I can do a manual timesheet entry. So say exactly what we're doing here, put some notes in here. And now we can start to track budget versus actual on this job. We've also recently launched a timer. So again, if I want to kick off the timer, it'll kick off and show me exactly how long I'm spending on this particular job. And then if I need to, I can certainly, again, update that as well. Again, put in narration or notes in here. And again, I'm just adding to that timesheet entry. The other way that I can do a timesheet entry in Karbon is, and I quite like this one, this is a weekly view of time. If I jump into my weekly view of timesheets, the beauty of this is it's actually tracking where I've been in Karbon. So here I've got some suggested timesheet entries. When I was in practice a long time ago, I was terrible at timesheets. I get to the end of the day and think, where have I spent my 76-minute units? But here, Karbon's going to give you some tips as to where you've been, and it's really easy to do a timesheet entry off the back of that suggested timesheet entry. So that's how we capture time in Karbon. And again, this is how that all flows back to that work dashboard. So hopefully now you've got a better sense of where this data is coming from on the dashboard. And then you've now got that ability to get that real-time information about where things are up to. So again, if I just want to focus on a particular work type, what payroll jobs have I got to actually get done, for example, we can sort and filter that information and see exactly where that's up to. You've also got the ability, if you think of things in terms of client groups. So I know you might perhaps be doing multiple entities for different clients. So again, you can set up client groups in Karbon as well. So I can now see exactly what do we need to get done for this particular client group, either this week or this month. And again, I think this one works better as a list view. So again, I can see exactly for that client or that group of entities exactly what needs to be done. So as I said, it's really about building out those personal views of information for you and seeing what's urgent or important to you as well. So happy to take any questions that you've got. Joe, that's sort of a quick overview. Please let me know if anyone's got any questions.
Yeah, well, that's a whirlwind tour. There's a lot, so much going on, but fantastic to see. But yeah, I've got a bunch of questions for you, and we'll see if anyone else has questions. Just feel free to type in. But I'd like to get an idea of setup time. So give us an example of, say, let's say it's a BAS agent and one bookkeeper, and they've got 30 clients.
Yep.
What's the realistic setup time?
Yeah, really good question. So first of all, there's a free 14-day trial for Karbon. And if I just jump onto our website here, so we offer a number of onboarding solutions for you. So certainly it's realistic to get Karbon up and running within that sort of 30-day period, depending on how hard you go, I guess. So in that example, as you said, so perhaps a team of 2 or 3 people. We've got some free training sessions that we run on a regular basis. So you can certainly come in here and we register for these events. The first one is accounting optimization and template building, because probably the one of the biggest investments that you will make in setting up Karbon is tailoring and adjusting our work templates to reflect the way that you want to run your business. It also might be that you've got some fantastic processes already in your current business that you want to just replicate in Karbon. So certainly you can build brand new work templates from scratch. So this session here is about teaching you and helping you how to tailor it and customize those sessions. As I said, we run them weekly. You can turn up and you might be lucky and you're the only person in that session. You might turn up and there might be a couple of other firms in there as well. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that then we also run some general fundamentals overview training. And the other thing I'll highlight too is I think one of the, we probably undersell the value of our knowledge base in Karbon. We've got fantastic self-help tools available for you. So again, some general training topics on how to use Karbon, whether that be just the general getting started, how to use Triage, how to manage work, some advanced training as well. So there's certainly a whole range of tools there to help you. The beauty of Karbon being a global platform is that at any point in time, if you can't find what you need, we've certainly got live chat available 24/7, 7 days a week, because we are a global platform as well. So it is realistic to get Karbon up and running in that sort of 2 to 4 week period. The other thing that you can do is we've got a data import spreadsheet that you can populate those 30 clients that you suggested into, and we can bulk import that for you. And as I said earlier, you've got the ability also to come and have a look at our library of templates on our website and then add those into your own instance of Karbon as well.
So would half a day of time be realistic, or are you really looking at more like a couple of days of focused time?
It's probably I'd probably break it into a couple of different sections, in the sense that the first thing I say to people is you don't have to boil the ocean, right? the beauty of Karbon is you don't have to have every workflow mastered and perfect to start using Karbon. We often talk about starting with the big rocks. So what are the big pieces of work that are high volume? So it might be, let's say you've got a number of payroll jobs that you're doing. So perhaps focus on the payroll one first, or then you can focus on the BAS, the IAS, and just do them in a way that is additive rather than trying to be perfect at everything all at once. So the main time investment is ensuring that you're getting a nice clean set of data in there at the start. So that's one piece of time, and then the second time is just building out those templates to reflect the way that you want to work. And then there is also a couple of hours of training sessions that you can do, either self-paced or you can attend those free ones that I showed you as well.
Yep. And what about the adjustment to using Triage? And do you find that people need quite a bit of time to adjust to that way of working rather than going outside the platform and back to your email? Talk us through a little bit of that process, because I think that for some would be quite an adjustment.
And it is. I think that's a very fair statement to say. Prior to joining Karbon, I was a 20-year user of Outlook, right? So I lived in Outlook and managed my inbox was my to-do list, really. That was how I sort of ran my life. What we do find, though, is that couple of little tricks you can do. First of all, you can actually adjust the settings on Exchange or Office 365 that when you first open it, it only opens your calendar, it doesn't open your email. So that's one little trick you can do that sort of forces you to use Triage. The other thing is that the auto filing, the ability to collaborate with your team is what becomes addictive in Karbon. So certainly that ability to easily just assign things out to team members, collaborate, see where everything's up to, see all the communication for a particular client or a particular job is what over time becomes addictive. So we often hear from firms that have been with us a while that they came to Karbon for workflow and they stayed and they love us because of the communication and collaboration piece. The other thing I should mention too is that if I jump back into one of these work items, you've also got the ability at any of these task levels to actually collaborate and put notes here as well. So it is also a great way to capture any information that's relevant to that particular task as well. And you can also at these task levels, you can also hyperlink out to different pieces of software as well. So there is a lot of depth of functionality in Karbon that you can leverage as well.
And what about, so you showed us briefly the sort of the external email, including, some tasks that you wanted completed by Bronwyn. And tell us about the security of document sharing. So for example, if I'm setting up her new employees and I want the text file declarations, is the system secure enough to protect the privacy that we need to?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, really good question. Yeah, so we get asked that question quite a lot. So the short answer is yes, it's a very secure platform. The reason why we built that client task functionality is that we wanted the ability for our clients to collaborate with their clients in a much more secure platform than just email. So we certainly know that email isn't the most secure way of doing that. Karbon has gone through a full security certification process. So we're certified at what they call SOC 2 level, and SOC 2 certification not only goes through and assesses the technology security side of things, but all of our internal policies and procedures in Karbon have met that security standard as well. So we've certainly been scrutinised from a security perspective many times over. Yeah,
that is only becoming more important in our industry, both with cyber attacks and just our requirements for BAS agents, tax agents, etc. What about all of the lists where you showed us filters, for example? That's all set up as a default? That's not something that we have to decide and customize? That comes with standard?
A little bit of both. So it does, and I've probably I've added a lot to mine. So it does come with a couple of standard views, but typically, as I said, people like their own favorite views of work. So it is really easy to build out those views of work. So it's a little bit of trial and error. So most people will play with them. Again, if you build views that you don't like, you can easily just, so you see here that I've built several BAS views, for example. I could just come in here and again, I can just delete that view. So I can clean up and tidy that list as well. So it is really easy to build those multiple views. And again,
I can imagine as you're experimenting, when you start using this, you create a bunch of things that you decide later you don't want, which can be annoying if you get stuck with them.
And similarly, even at a template level, if you don't want any of these templates too, you can certainly, remove them and delete them as well. The other great thing is, as you can see, I've done it a couple of times here, is with these templates, you can come here, you can duplicate them, rename them, and then have a play with them. Yep. So, and then if you don't like it, just delete it and revert back to the original one. Similarly, as I said earlier, we know a lot of businesses have great processes already, so I can build a template from scratch. And the good thing about Karbon is if you've got something documented in Word or Excel, when you bring across those 10 cells, it can actually break it into 10 separate tasks for you as well. So easy for you to.
My next question was about importing and efficiently copying your own processes from other systems. So it sounds like Word and Excel is easy. Is there other ways of importing info?
Yes, there is. And we just had a question from someone who's about to leave, so leave the meeting. But my email is just richard@karbonhq.com. And perhaps Joe could share my details with everyone after this, but happy to, if you want to reach out.
For sure.
Yeah, if you want to reach out, let me know. So in terms of data, so we have, and again, this is where I love the help and feedback. So if I just type in help and feedback, data import, here is how you can easily have all of your client information imported into Karbon. So again, if I just go importing client data, there's a nice little instructional video there. And then all you need to do is download our data import CSV file, upload it to our secure Dropbox, and we can import that into your Karbon account for you. The only tip I give you there is make sure when you do upload that file, make sure you name it the same as your firm or your Karbon account. We do occasionally get people who just don't name the file and it gets uploaded. We're not sure whose it is, so make sure you always name it.
Well, I guess you'd better tell us about cost and user levels and that. So user levels was something I wanted to ask about. I presume you can set different levels of access. Or is it just sort of about end user?
No, that's a really good question as well. So from a security perspective, there's a couple of different layers of security. So when I set up a user, everything I've shown you today, I've been an admin user, but you can have a restricted user. So particularly our clients that have offshore team members tend to prefer the restricted one, if they're using an outsourcing service. So you can actually restrict it so they can only have access to the jobs that they've been assigned to. The standard one gives people access to all of the work and all of the clients in Karbon. The admin gives you access to everything behind the settings tab, so you can break that down. At a client level, we've also then got some additional security levels that you can reduce the amount of information. So if I come in here, for example, to Abigail Silvers, who someone was speaking about earlier. So here we've got privacy settings. So at a client level, we've got public so that everyone can see this client, private, so only the client teams can see the contact, the work names, but not the details or the communication. And similarly, if you've got a celebrity as a client, you can actually have it so that only the people who are actually on the client can actually see the client even exists in Karbon. So there is a good matrix of security there for you as well. From a pricing perspective, it's all on our website. Just go back to I've got too many tabs open. So under pricing, we have 3 different pricing plans. Probably the 2 most relevant to our audience today is both the team plan and the business plan. The team plan is very good for sole practitioners who perhaps don't need the level of automation. You can start off on that, and you can start off paying monthly or annual in advance, depending on how committed you want to be. So certainly these figures are ex-GST, so GST on top. But you've got the flexibility between either plan. You can start on one and upgrade to another one as well. So the only thing is the business plan is for a minimum of 3 users, whereas the team plan is 1 to 3 users.
Mm. And so the main thing you miss out on is the automatic client reminders and integrations to other apps. Is that?
And some of the task automation. So we also have quite a number of sole practitioners on the business plan. The only thing you need, we will give you an exception to the 3 user rule as long as you pay annual in advance.
Okay, that's good to know. Great. Okay. People, if anyone's got any final questions, now is the time. But I think we've got a great overview, and I mean, even for sole practitioners paying the $70 a month, I mean, you know, if you're saving, so okay, you're going to spend some time setting up, but then each month you will in fact be saving quite a bit of time. So potentially time to do more billable work.
Absolutely. I mean,
that's the idea, isn't it?
We did a survey, as I said earlier, to our customer base end of last year, and we hadn't done one for a couple of years. We last did one in 2018. In 2018, the feedback was that Karbon saves around 10 hours per person per week. At the end of 2020, when we did it, that number had gone up to 13 hours per person per week. Wow. And I think the great thing about that is that Karbon being a cloud-based platform, we do software releases every sort of 3 to 4 weeks. So it is a constantly evolving and developing platform as well. So certainly for those of you who perhaps seen it before, hopefully you've seen some of the additional features, but it does continue to evolve and change. The other thing I did forget to mention too is all of that triage functionality you can do on your smartphone as well.
Right.
So there's an app to do that as well, because we know a lot of emails get handled on a smartphone. So certainly there's a Karbon app so you can do your triage on your smartphone.
Great. Okay. Well, look, I will put the recording up in a week. I will put your email up there as well. And there's demos available and all of the free resources. And by the way, Karbon has a great blog for anybody who's interested. There's always great articles on Karbon. And I think we will call it a day there. So thanks so much, Richard, for your time to demonstrate that. And yeah, great to see.
That's right. Thank you very much for having me. It's very nice of you to invite me along, and certainly, please reach out anyone on today's session who's got further questions, and happy to circle back and give you an update maybe 6 to 12 months down the track. So
sounds great.
Please keep us in mind.
Yeah.
But thanks again for having me.
Thank you. Okay. Bye, everyone. See you next month.
Bye, everyone.